Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Squeeze Growth podcast. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Brett Lindenberg, founder of MindStamp.io. It is MindStamp.io. MindStamp is an interactive video creation platform that helps businesses and even individuals create videos quickly and easily without needing any expensive software or design skill, coding skills for that matter. Hi, Brett. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us, Brett. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. And to get started off, I would like to ask you about a little bit of yourself, your background, and how you started MindStamp.
So I am a full stack developer. That's my background. I went to school and studied computer science in college. I didn't program or anything before school. I wasn't like a whiz kid that was building computer programs. I liked the computer. I liked playing games, but I didn't program at all until college. Computer science itself is a theoretical degree. You don't learn kind of the web development skills that I use today in college. You learn about how computers work, algorithms, that kind of thing. But I went in doing computer science with the intention of becoming an entrepreneur. I started out trying to study dentistry, actually, because I thought that would be a good and cozy job. And then when I realized I didn't like that, I was thinking, what skills can I equip myself with in order to be an entrepreneur the fastest? What applies most broadly? And it was pretty clear that computer science, both computer science and statistics or different math, fit that bill. So I studied computer science. I took a little bit of time off after college to freelance, build up my skills a little bit. I was traveling around for about a year and a half or two. And then after that, I settled back in and I started working, looking for ideas. And there's a long path from there to MindStamp, but that's generally where it got started.
Awesome. So when I was looking into your LinkedIn profile, I saw that you did your Bachelor of Science degree from University of Florida. And so, how did you started with the decision of pursuing this computer science degree? Like, what was your motivation? You said that you had something in mind. You wanted to become an entrepreneur. So at that time, was it clear to you that you wanted to build something, or was it because you were thinking like you would get a job at first and then work at a company, learn stuff, and then build something? So was it something like that, or did you have any specific thought in mind about creating the platform that you created today?
No specific thought in mind back then. Like I mentioned, I originally started studying dentistry just because I thought that would be a good and high paying job. I shadowed a local dentist and he told me he works like 3 days a week and makes 300 grand. And I'm like, that sounds good. I'll do that. I quickly realized that was not what I'm good at. I'm good at math. I'm good at logic. And so I considered majoring in math after that. I spent a couple of weeks trying to figure out what to do. And I was going to do math, but I decided to do a little bit more of a practical application of math, which is computer science. And if you understand computer science, you understand systems, you understand inputs and outputs, algorithms, how data is moved, how it's stored. And that's really applicable, across the board. I'd hire a computer scientist to do pretty much any job, maybe outside of like marketing. But, if you can wrap your head around those problems, you can pretty much put them to use anywhere. So I started studying computer science, but no semblance of an idea of what I'd eventually build. I also think that, back around that time, I think it was 2012-ish. That's when, the internet was still relatively young. I think like that movie, The Social Network, just came out. You're hearing about all the young guys just like me that could, that have built a company with little resources, right? Because when you're that age, you have no resources. You're scraping dollars by to get a coffee to go study. So, the thought of trying to get startup capital and manufacture a physical good and organize, actual labor, it was just way more appealing to say, hey, I can use my brain and my creativity to create something and have a mass global audience immediately. Obviously it's not that easy, but the core truth there remains that the internet enables that distribution around the world at almost zero cost, right?
Right. So when you started in 2012, the times have changed pretty much quickly after that, since then, due to the advancement in technology. So do you think the resources to learn programming right now are much easily accessible today than it were in 2012, or was it easier then to start to learn coding and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely think that the resources have gotten more comprehensive and more available. That's not to say that they weren't accessible then. pretty much everything I do, I learned on my own just by, I picked up a book and started to learn Ruby on Rails. Ruby on Rails has been around for a long time before that and continues to be around today. And that's what we use on MindStamp. So it was just a matter of finding it and, sticking to it. I think a lot of people get tripped up when they try to learn programming because there's so much out there. There's so little direction. And I think you have to have, you have to have projects and goals in mind other than just learning. And that's what freelancing was for me. I started doing a lot of freelance work and challenged myself to build projects for people that gave me a clear, here's the things that need to be achieved rather than just, I want to learn. There's metrics of success as I can build this database. I can release this feature. They certainly weren't good back then. Apologies to those old clients, but that's how you have to learn, in my opinion, is set the goal and then, eventually reach it. It can't just be an open-ended, like I've tried to learn other things as well, without those goals. And I just end up getting distracted or overwhelmed or, burnt out on it. So I think that there's plenty of resources. Again, they can still be really overwhelming today, but I think that a lot of people have felt that frustration I talk about and have organized, a lot more methodical ways of learning programming, 100 days of code or Replit or different little coding challenges that maybe didn't exist back then. They've taken that frustration that people feel when they try to learn to code and try to organize it and try to give people a path, because a lot of people just fall off in the meantime.
Yeah, correct. I agree to the thought that so when you said that when we start to learn programming, we should have some direction where we want to go. So that really helps. So when I started learning Python, I didn't have anything in mind, any project that I wanted to build. So it was really hard for me to stick with it because I was busy learning the if and else statement, conditional, all the theoretical stuff that comes in the beginning. Instead, I should have focused more on building projects, and with some intention, that would be a pretty better approach, relatively better approach, I would say. So yeah, that's spot on. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. You have to have, it's easy to say, but you should set some goal that's significantly outside of your current capabilities, right? If you're learning Python, it's not, hey, I want to write a loop that does this 10 times. It's no, I want to build this small calculator. I want to, have a multi-component goal. I want something to email me the weather every morning. That sounds really simple. And there's plenty of services that could do that. But in order to achieve that yourself, you have to put together, 6 different components. And if it's, not for a client and it's not for actual business, like you can cut the corners, but you're going to get 80% of that learn just by hooking up to that API and just learning how to set up a mailer and just learning up, how to set up an interval to check that like that. So I think you got to go, when you're programming, you got to go broad with it as well. You can't just be focused on the little thing.
Right. And the satisfaction that we get after building something is quite wonderful to have. Yes. So what inspired you to create MindStamp, Brett?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, MindStamp is an interactive video platform today, and it's primarily business to business. Individuals use it, but for business purposes like training, right? Instead of watching an hour-long lecture and putting a 5-minute quiz at the end, put those questions right throughout the video, right? Every 5 to 10 minutes, ask a couple questions, make sure the learner knows. Really simple, right? Training and education, marketing, so you can let people buy right in the video. You can let people, ask some questions to gather information about their preferences. But it actually didn't start that way. When I was searching out for an idea to build, I had actually just moved across the country from Florida to California, and I had left a bunch of my friends back home, and I was still keeping in touch with them. We used to go to a lot of concerts, and specifically one artist that would play really unique sets at these concerts, right? You didn't hear the same song twice. So whenever he played a set, it would be a big thing of, oh, what did he play? Right. So we were always sending these videos back and forth to each other, being like, look at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And so I tried to tackle that problem, the problem that we have first. I was sick of that, back and forth on Messenger, opening up the video. I was like, what if we could just put, my thoughts into the video itself? So the first version of MindStamp was actually called H, and it was a collaborative video annotation tool, if you want to call it. So as I'm watching the video, I can just type my comment right at the timestamp and say, wow, or look at that, or that's crazy. And then when I share that video with them, those comments are popping up right at that time that I put them. So the first version of it wasn't really interactive in that sense. It was just, let me add my comments to yours, to the video and share them with you. I was trying to do a little bit of a social video aspect. And I made, at some point in some way, made some functionality where you could request that, a comment be be responded to. Like, hey, this is important. I want to know your thoughts on this rather than just consume it. I want to know it. And when we did that, it would pop up and let you put a reply to it. And that was kind of the turning point in this interactive video experience where I'm like, oh, wow, this transformed it from a one-way video experience into a two-way interactive experience. Now I'm part of it. Now I'm actually having to respond to what's happening on screen. Took that, kind of a light bulb went off, and we worked with got some interest from a couple of different agencies that were using video for, client reviews, right? Here's the video that we're producing for the client. Rather than sending the video and then sending a Google Doc and saying, tell me what you think, they'd send it. They'd ask that, hey, do you like this color at this time? Should we change this? And that was kind of where things turned, and it became interactive video, and we shifted to a business use case because these agencies were clearly getting value as a video interactive review tool. So the social aspect was kind of pushed to the side, and the business interactivity use case, we started down that path. And we're a really customer driven company, right? We don't claim to prescribe the big solution, the big art solution. We do think it is art, right? Because you are creating these artistic experiences through video. But, we listen to what people want. They say, I want to do this. And if we hear it a couple of times, we're like, that makes sense broadly for other customers. So we'll go ahead and add it. And that's generally how we've gotten today, is just by listening to customers ever since that first, little request for feedback. Anything we add pretty much is based on what customers are telling us they need.
Awesome. So initially it started out as a collaborating platform rather than an interactive video creation platform, where you could send someone the video that you want them to see at a specific time frame. Okay. And then you started adding enhancement and functionalities like responding to that timestamps through comment. And now that I look at it, I saw some of the features and capabilities that you guys give. It's quite wonderful to think about it. Like now we can, through MindStamp, add hotspot buttons and a lot of stuff that, is awesome. So it's truly great to see where it is today.
It's come a long way since then, but pretty much everything we've done, like I said, is based on what we've heard from customers, and whether or not they explicitly say it, we have to interpret what their goals are, right? Like if they want to, one example is personalization, right? You can set up a video, set up template variables within it, and then personalize that video to thousands of people, just with one video. It says, just like email, you can include their name, include their company, include their size. And now you get in this video that says, hey, Brett, how is MindStamp doing? I know that you guys have under 20 employees. So here's our small resource guide for small business, right? So we just keep going. We added all those things. And even what you see today is not nearly the state that it started in, right? Like hotspots, everything now on MindStamp is drag and droppable, resizable, right? You can place it anywhere on the screen, size, style as you wish. But when hotspots started, we took the simple approach. I made a 3x3 grid on the video and let you put a little blinking indicator in each one of those in the center, whatever you wanted. So, you couldn't necessarily get that hotspot right where you wanted it, but that got people 80% of the way there if it was near the item. And then from there, you just iterate over time, get better over time. So MindStamp is just kind of a almost 6-year journey now in the art of refining and improving based on customer feedback.
Awesome. I would say also creating videos through a platform like MindStamp is much more effective for businesses, even for something like lead generation, than using simple email templates. So that makes all the difference.
Yeah, one thing we like to say is that like MindStamp kind of future-proofs your content too, right? MindStamp's always a hosted experience, right? So you can make a change on the video and it's live immediately. There's no uploading, no downloading, and you can continually update your content. Say you have a lecture that some fact is now wrong, right? The statistic changed, or that we've gotten some new understanding. Rather than having to, slice up that video or re-record a section or whatnot, you can just put some text over it in MindStamp. You can record a little video clip into MindStamp saying, hey, actually this fact changed. This is different now. So, keep that in mind. So it gets that second life out of content as well, like webinars, A lot of people do webinars and then they just toss them up on YouTube and hope somebody finds them. why not take that webinar, put it into MindStamp, gate it so that you can capture a lead like that, enroll them in a marketing workflow, chop it up, put more little pieces of content, branch them out. Like you can just infinitely reuse content on MindStamp and create these dynamic experiences.
What are the unique features that MindStamp offers?
Yeah, I think that today MindStamp is probably the most powerful and feature comprehensive platform out there. There were a couple that we didn't have. One, for example, was like sticky hotspots. We call them trackable hotspots. So if you have something in the video, a shopping video, and this guy's holding up a shoe, comparing the two, previously you could just have one hotspot, sitting near it. Now we can make it track that object, right? You can have that. So he's moving it around, that hotspot's moving with it. Whenever they click it, that's, that's a big one. We have conditional logic. So you can show or hide different interactions that could include like changing into a video based on either what you've told the video about the viewer or they've said themselves, right? So if I asked a question, how big is your company? I could add two buttons to the video for a big company hiring guide and small company hiring guide. And based on what they answer on that question, one of them is going to show or hide. I don't think any other platform has conditional logic out there today. But I'll say that the biggest differentiator, in my opinion, is that we've been really good about sticking to this concept of making it as non-technical as possible. Like you mentioned, like code free, right? A lot of these platforms, you have to work with an agency, do custom stuff all the time. And just like you said, like MindStamp is not a heavy video editor. If you've edited video, it can be overwhelming. You've got multiple timelines, tiny little clips, scrolling, zooming, right? We're not that at all. You put in the video, and then as you're watching, you have 6-8 buttons. I forget what it is, but if you want to add a button at that time, you click the add button. Button appears on screen. You drop it where it is, set it what you want it to do. We have like 10 click actions, and just like that, you save it and it's in, right? So we have done a really good job of keeping things, despite the power, keeping things simple enough that anybody can create a powerful interactive video, whether you're a single employee at a company, a training manager, whether you're an e-learning professional. Like we try to hit the perfect blend of power and simplicity. And we definitely see that, a lot of our reviews say that it's so, I didn't think I could do this, but it's so easy. And that's something that we see a lot with people, is that when we show them, get them on a demo and show them, they've really got to take a step back and rethink about how they think about a lot of their things, whether it's marketing or training, because they didn't know that this was possible. They had no idea that you could do all of this in a video. And they're like, I kind of got to go back to the drawing board here and think about how I'm going to plan this. Because previously I was just planning a video and then, do the quiz at the end, or send this video and hope they click the link, on the web page beside it. And they're like, man, I gotta really think about what I'm doing here now that I know that this capability exists. So we're still super early in interactive video. A lot of people don't know what it is. Like you mentioned, like technology's come so far. We're not the first to do interactive video. Interactive video has been around for a long time, but we're at the sweet spot right now where devices, laptops, phones, internet is getting good enough that it can be a mass market product now, right? Like your phone and your computer has so much power that we can deliver this really rich, data intense experience anywhere around the world that'll work for people.
I am pretty sure you guys can be like the Canva for interactive video creation. So
yeah. We've used that phrase before. Canva is awesome though. They certainly deserve all the praise they get. We use Canva, we're customers, but we certainly take inspiration for them in that regard.
Yeah, because the fact that you can, you get to edit and create a video without using any technical knowledge. So even a non-techie, like someone like me, can create a video very easily, and that video is interactive. So that's a bonus, I would say. And the fact that it saves too much time, that is a huge unique value proposition in itself.
Yeah. Saves time. And, especially for maybe non-training and education use cases, it can save a whole employee, right? Like we have one customer that uses MindStamp, a unique use case for auto loan finance, right? They do auto loans for people to get cars, and they've created this 10-minute interactive experience where they send the data in using those variables, like I mentioned, like the personalization. So they'll say your payment amount is payment, right? And that payment that payment gets substituted for whatever they pass in for all these customers. And it just goes ahead and confirms information, does a little education, little confirmation. And that's saving, a 30, 40-minute phone call with a person live that has to call each one of these people. Instead, they just send into the video. It's all hooked up into the system. The system goes ahead and pings them when it's ready, confirms all the information, and boom. So, we're saving them hundreds of hours per month on the phone just by creating this, because they invested in an interactive video that achieves their goal.
Yeah. So what kind of analytics feature, or I would say reporting features, do you guys offer for an interactive video? So let's say if someone creates an interactive video asking about something specific, like a survey or something. So does that get recorded in some kind of pie charts or something? Like, how do we measure the performance of a video?
Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't even gotten into the analytics, but MindStamp offers probably the richest video analytics out there today. Every time somebody presses play on that video, you're going to get a full report showing, exactly when they started, when they stopped, exactly which seconds they watched too. We don't just do like, oh, they skipped to the end, so they got 90% watch time. Like you'll see graphs and information that show the yes, and then they skip this 5-second section. See all of the interactions, any buttons they click, hotspots they click, questions they answer, anything like that is all going to be included. And then we also, go ahead and summarize that as well, so you can get high level insight into your content. So you'll see a drop off graph and you see, 75% of people missed this portion of the video. Here's the interactions that they're missing, and also some, variant comparison as well. Like, hey, 80% of people that answered yes here dropped off, whereas 20% that answered no kept watching. Like, what does that mean for your business? You have to do some interpreting of that, right? But we try to make all of that data as highly accessible and understandable as possible. And obviously we have a bunch of integrations as well that you can send this. Like, we have the Zapier app, we have a HubSpot integration, Salesforce, we have webhooks, we have an API. So you can really kind of automate your whole workflow if you have a goal in mind with MindStamp. And like when that auto loan company I mentioned, when somebody finishes, we send them a webhook. They hit our API, they grab the information that they need, and then automate. Did they get another video? Did they get a phone call? Whatever it is. So every time somebody presses play, we capture pretty much everything you could possibly want about them. Obviously with privacy concern, that data is super secure and only available to the viewer, or to the owner, but we give you, deep insight into your content, how it's performing, and most importantly, how to improve it.
Brett, as you said that when you started out in creating MindStamp, it wasn't really what it is today. It was quite different. And you guys started out as a collaborative platform, and it's been a long journey. So what were the challenges that you have encountered while developing the platform, and how did you overcome them? So what were some of the most prominent challenges?
Yeah, a couple. Like I mentioned, when I was building MindStamp, I was completely learning as I went. I had some basic experience with JavaScript, right? But nothing like we're doing today. I didn't know anything about online video. I had to learn about all these different little intricacies that come with video, delivering it, browser compatibility. Those are the technical challenges. Obviously, there's a lot of issues / challenges that come when you're learning as you're building, right? As you're getting customers and you're not 100% bulletproof on what you're doing. There's going to be some problems. You try to handle them as best as you can. But I'd say like more so the big challenge for me personally was just how long it took and how long you kind of have to do that wandering in the dark, right? To try to find what the value is. So MindStamp started in 2017. We didn't really get going and start getting real customers until 2020, late 2019, 2020. Obviously the pandemic has been great for MindStamp as everything goes remote. That's when people really started to come in. But we spent a good 2 years, and during that time it was just me in the beginning of the company, trying to really having to reach out and say, hey, can you use this? Is this valuable? Really having to put yourself out there in front of people and ask them for feedback, honest feedback. That's super important. A lot of people will be like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, looks really cool, but they're not paying for it. They don't actually use it. Like, so I think the wandering in the dark aspect of being so long is what was really challenging. And, there are times definitely that I thought, I was like, all right, it's time to move on. Like, I just can't get the momentum that I need to justify the time being input here. Had to go back to freelancing for a couple months, and I kind of thought that was a failure right there, right? That's the end where, I'm not spending time on this. It's going to die. I'm having to neglect these customers, but I need to I need to eat, so I need to spend a couple months freelancing. And that ended up being a pretty big blessing in disguise at that time, because I was so in the weeds with every single day trying to figure out, think what can I do? What can I do? That taking a step back, working on another project for money that gave some financial security, but also gave that headspace to come back and say, okay, I've stopped thinking about this primarily for 2 to 3 months. What are the one or two big things that I've thought of in the meantime that can actually affect change here? And that was the first implementation of like these per second analytics that I just mentioned, where you get a view report. Like, okay, well, right now we can create these videos and people can consume them, but you have no idea what's happening with them. You have no reporting, no understanding. And when I came back from that little hiatus, I went right to work because I had a clear picture in my mind of, we're gonna create this back end to the experience where the owner can see exactly what happened. And that's been super popular. So, a lot of technical challenges along the way. But mostly it was a matter of persistence, and just gotta keep persisting and recognize when you do have to take a step back, but be able to get back to it as quickly as possible.
So you said that you started as a solopreneur, and you pretty much had to figure out everything on your own. So when you created a minimal viable product MVP, which platforms did you use to reach out to the customers, and how did you differentiate those who liked your platform and those who really wanted to pay for it? Because there are two categories of people. Someone may like your product, but they may not need it at that point in time, so they'll not be willing to pay for it. But then there are people who really have the pain point, and your product is solving that pain point. So which platform did you use and you recommend for interacting with your potential prospects who would in turn be your customers? Like, there are forums and subreddits where you can talk with real people and pitch your product. So how did you get started with that?
Yeah, the classic ones at that time, indie hackers back in the day. I read a lot of indie hackers back in like 2017-ish. Do something like this. I'm alone. I can build software. This is what I want to do. We got a good lucky break with Product Hunt back in the day, where we were, I think, the number one for most of the day, and then somebody passed us, so we ended up getting number 2 of the day. But it doesn't matter, the traffic, if you're on the front page, the traffic is the same. And that just brought, if you look at our users by time graph, got nothing, and then Product Hunt, then back to nothing for a long time. But that Product Hunt launch was what you described, where people come in and they are actually interested, but they have, a lot of people say it's cool, but then the people that are actually interested are be like, this is great, but can it do this? And I need this, like, it's so close. Can it do this? That gave us a lot of fuel, or at least me, a lot of fuel in the fire to say, okay, there is actual interest here. Here's the most common things I heard from this launch. Here's where people might have tried it and dropped off because it wasn't working, and at least give you some path to go on, right? Like, you're no longer in the dark of just, I'm trying to find the value in this product. People are finally telling you that product or that value. So Indie Hackers was good for community back in the day. I'm sure it still is. I just don't go on there much anymore. And but Product Hunt, having an army of kind of product enthusiasts that both celebrate you as well as give you real, honest feedback. That was super valuable back in the day.
Okay, so I would like to talk a little bit about AI and video content creation. So if you have seen the recent news, OpenAI have come up with a new technology known as ChatGPT. So GPT-3 is rocking the content writing world when it comes to generating human-like AI content. So do you think how do you think will video creation space evolve over the next few years? Do you think AI will have to AI will be a part of that too?
Absolutely. I think it's going to completely rock it, like you said. We're exploring some AI projects ourselves right now. Everybody says that, but I think video is just so time consuming and costly to create that any edge that people can get is going to be really welcomed. There's a really cool company, multiple, but one that's really prominent is called Synthesia.ai. I don't know if you've seen them, but they make synthetic AI, like very, very realistic avatar videos. I could be an avatar right now, and I could have programmed myself to say this. I'm not, but I could have been. And that's a challenge that we get a lot of people with at MindStamp, like I mentioned, they come in and they're like, man, I got to rethink about how I do this. How do I film in order to create interactivity? And being able to leapfrog that physical requirement, the time and money requirement, and go ahead and just generate the script and then program an AI avatar or program the cinematic experience is going to be a game changer, right? You can go from hours and hours in revision to just, I have my script, especially something like training, right? Like you generally don't need somebody from your company standing up there trying to film training, trying to learn how to speak, bad audio, right? You've got the content you want them to learn, drop that script in something like Synthesia, you'll get a video in a few minutes, and drop that into MindStamp, add your questions, and boom, you're done. The only work there is creating the script and then placing the questions, and you've got an evergreen training asset that took an hour and can now be used for forever and ever. So I think that's the basic version. The whole like I think it's DALL-E, some version of that for video, where it's creating these actual videos with landscapes and objects moving and stuff. Like that's gonna rock a lot more than the content marketing industry. But Hollywood, movie, content creation itself, like when you can just say what you want the video to be, that's gonna be absolutely insane. So we have a close eye on that. An interactive video, the objects in screen are important, right? So as we move more and more towards this AI generated model, there's definitely synergy where we can say, oh, we're creating this, and we know that product is in the screen at this point right here. So we can automatically put a hotspot on it rather than having you go and, place it, which is fine and easy now, but there's definitely going to be synergy between the two as AI comes to even more prominent.
Yeah. So is it possible to think that in few years there will be a time where we'll be able to give command or a prompt to AI and it will automatically generate video for us? So do you see that coming pretty sooner or in at least a few years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that unfortunately a lot of video producers and editors are going to go out of business, as you can just tell the computer what to make and it makes it, and you can say, oh no, at 30 seconds change that to green, and it immediately does that, right? As the cost of compute power continues to go down, like that's just going to become more and more of a real thing.
Yeah, right.
And even I'm really excited about other areas of AI too. There's another cool company called Adept.ai that I saw the other day, and they are basically a browser-based AI where you tell, you have a little chat box, your personal chat box, and you tell it what to do. You can just say, add Brett Lindenberg as a contact in Salesforce and set his company to this. And it, interprets that and then takes all those actions for you in the browser, right? So you're saving these clips where you're navigating and doing this, create a spreadsheet with 10 columns and make the 8th column the combination of 3 and 4, right? That's saving. It shows you kind of how early we are on with technology and our interface with it, to the point it's like, oh, that makes total sense. I shouldn't have to go click, file, new, find the box, type in their name. I can just tell if we can bridge that gap between what I'm thinking and what we want the computer to do. Same thing with video. That's a new paradigm that we're definitely going to see in the next 5 years.
That will be awesome to see, and the jobs for virtual assistant may certainly be in danger after that. Yeah.
I mean, ChatGPT, like you look at that. That's mind-blowing as it is, right? And I think Google should be really worried, or they should be laughing because they have a really good solution that they're about to unveil. I mean, you ask ChatGPT, how do I bake a cake? You'll get a nice list, exactly the steps to take. And if you ask Google that same question, you're going to get 15 SEO optimized list articles that you have to go and scroll and find. Like we're moving way closer to the I ask you what I want and you tell me what I'm asking you, rather than you're giving me, an indication of where I might find what I'm asking for.
Yeah, right. It will be a pretty hard time for search engines to figure out what content is written by, human and what content is written by an AI, because as you said, ChatGPT is pretty awesome at what it does right now, and it is still evolving day after day.
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue that yes, we do want human content, but also it also doesn't really matter, like if you look at a recipe article, it's basically written by an AI today, the way it's SEO optimized, right? They fill you up with a bunch of blabber about some dish, blah, blah, blah. They try to get you to scroll and then eventually show you the step. Is there any real human element to that would be different than if an AI wrote it? I don't know. I think that 80% of the time people are looking for information, and the human editorial aspect is just imposed upon them because that's what we know how to create and share. So, I don't think people necessarily care as long as you're giving them the information that they want.
Yeah, you're right. As far as we get the solution, it does not matter whether it comes from an AI or a human being. That's
yeah,
true.
100%.
So I also glanced through your blog where you write content about multimedia. So there is this blog post named "The Power of Multimedia in Interactive Video," and you write articles related to those. So do you think creating blog content helps you drive traffic and potential customers?
Yeah, absolutely. SEO is a super long game, right? Like, we've been blogging for a long time, and you don't really get too many hits on specific blogs, but you just have to. It's a long game, and eventually over years, Google starts to recognize that you are providing value, and they're going to surface you, right? Like, there's a lot of ways you can spend money trying to get customers. And if you're spending money, usually the synergy isn't there. Obviously paid ads are important, especially if someone's looking for a solution, but I wrote an article back in like 2018 or 2019, maybe, that was how to add a button to a video, right? And I think we just got unseated. I think we're number 2, but that was the number 1 Google search result for a long time, right? So when anybody ever asks add button to video, they see MindStamp right there. We've got a nice little step-by-step guide. So if you are, starting something and planning on working on it for a long, long time, I would try to be cranking out a blog post every week or one every 2 weeks, and just build up that content library, show these search engines that you've been around and you're here to stay. You can't fill it with garbage. Thankfully, the AI writing tools make that easier now to generate content quickly without filling it with garbage. But yeah, SEO is you pay the price over a long period of time, but the price ends up being relatively free, right? It's just evergreen leads for you if you can get on the map there.
Yeah, and it also helps create awareness about your product organically without paying a penny. So that's pretty cool.
Organic awareness, organic trust too. Like, if you come to our blog and see that we've written 100 articles on interactive video, say, oh, these guys have thought about this, they've been thinking about this for 2 years, right? It's just a little semblance of trust when you can see that somebody actually cares and has been putting in the time.
Yeah, and when you keep writing about a single topic or a single niche, people start believing you to be an authority around that niche, and then they'll eventually end up investing in your product or service. Yeah,
totally. And you're at least in their mind. If they don't have a need now, then the second they do, maybe their job says we should do interactive video. They say, oh, I know MindStamp because I read this article. I've been reading their information. So definitely an investment, but I think a very worthy one, and one that can be paced out too, right? You don't have to be creating a blog every single day. It doesn't have to be backfilled. Just a little bit of consistency, a little bit of keyword research. You're gonna see some results.
Right. So my next question for you is, Brett, what are your thoughts on email marketing? I would say, how do you implement email marketing as a medium of communication or promotion for MindStamp?
Yeah, I think email marketing has been king for a while, and it's still mostly king. SMS marketing is popping up a lot more, but I think that the email inbox, it's still the best way to reach people, but it's just gotten so much more crowded, right? I think cold email effectiveness has gone down a lot. I think people are just getting inundated, especially if you don't manage your inbox. I manage mine pretty well, subscribing, folders, whatnot. And even then, there's too much stuff for me to consume. So I think that you have to, communicate with your customers via email. It's a direct marketing channel, but I don't think that you can rely on it like you used to. We've tried some cold email campaigns before, and generally have had lackluster results in that people, like I mentioned, there's a big educational aspect to interactive video. So unless they've taken the initiative to seek you out and learn, they'll get this email and they'll be like, that's cool. Like, I want a demo, but I have no idea what I'm gonna do. have any plans for this. What even is this? I don't understand this. So we use email to communicate with our customers. We don't do too much. We communicate important feature updates. We try not to abuse their inbox. We send maybe one to three emails a month, depending on what we've shipped that month. We have a newsletter, but we try to keep that line of communication open. But we know that it's not, the live or die that it used to be in terms of marketing.
Right. So this is the last question that I have for you. So what are the top pieces of advice you would like to give to people who are looking to become entrepreneurs or starting their own business, specifically those who set out on a path to create something online, maybe a product or a service?
Yeah, it's tough to give that advice, especially because I can remember like getting that advice back in the day and just kind of discount it because you're like, oh, they've already made something, like that's just generic advice. But I'd say the first thing is to get started. Get started on some project, whatever it is. I think way too many people spend too much time thinking about, what can I build, or what's my company going to be? Nope. You should run a bunch of little experiments, right? Little experiments with those goals, like we talked about of, oh, this, maybe there's something here with this email add-on or something. What's the smallest thing I can make and make that work, and then test if it works. So get started. There's a balance between staying committed while also not spending too much time, right? Like, or you can't start something and then 3 days later be like, I'm sick of this. I'm bored. I don't believe in it anymore. Cause there's gonna be times you don't believe in it. You had a brilliant idea and you're like, this is the future. And then 3 days in, the challenges appear. You've come down from that high of thinking about it. And then you're like, okay, on to the next thing. So I think there's a lot of people that hop from thing to thing, never go deep enough. Like you need to go deep enough, but also, know when it's time to move on. You have to get things out in public, right? Like I was certainly guilty of building for too long in private and thinking, when I unveil this, it's going to be awesome and people are going to love it. Like you need to, all the advice that YC gives is super important, that you need to be iterating rapidly, getting real feedback from real customers. And most importantly, in the macro picture, just keep, persist every day, resist the temptation to follow the shiny new object, and don't give up. Don't give up. And, you can put individual projects aside or move on to different things. But if your goal is to be an entrepreneur, you should be attacking a problem at all times and always looking for a solution to that. It could be the first, second, or 20th thing that you take on over a week, or it could be years. But, your job as an entrepreneur is to show up every day and attack a problem, and just to try to choose better problems over time.
That's a great advice, Brett. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please forgive me, but I suddenly had one more question in my mind. So
Sure.
It goes like that. So do you guys, are you guys planning to raise capital from a venture capitalist or from YC Combinator, from anyone? Or are you guys planning to go bootstrap? What do you prefer as of now?
Right now we're bootstrapped and self-funded. We've taken some small angel investment, but generally I'm not religious about venture capital one way or another. I think that you need to understand what you're signing up for when you take venture capital, right? These venture capitalists are looking for 100x return and nothing less. And so you need to understand if your company can tolerate that level of growth and risk and, innovation. Tolerate can mean many things there. It's whether you want to do it or not, whether your team wants to do it, whether you think that the market is there. And so far, we're comfortable with where we're at and don't necessarily think that the market is ready for a venture capitalist funded, super high growth interactive video company. They've certainly had success with interactive video in the past, but right now, like I said, we're still so early, but we are certainly not opposed that if somebody, if we find the spot that needs gas, pour it on the fire, we'll pour that gas, right? We'll give money if we're like, oh, this is working 100% repeatably, and we can scale this up. We can put money in, and more money comes out. Then let's go ahead, pour that money in, pour the gas. But right now we're at a little bit more of a phase where we're, working, refining, getting people the results that they need, and trying to conceptualize what is that spot that we can pour the gas where we know it's going to go up and to the right. I was definitely, trying to get into those accelerators in the very beginning. I think I've been rejected from Y Combinator like 7 times now. Which is a personal point of pride now, because didn't end up needing it. Who knows? Maybe it would have been quicker, or better, or faster if we did. I have a lot of respect for those guys, but they also didn't, just kind of what I said. They don't think that it's ready, the business or the market itself for that level of investment. But some businesses need venture capital, others don't. Others kind of exist in an area where they can take it, they have it available to them, but don't necessarily have the need for it right now. And I think we're in that middle spot right now. So as soon as we see an opportunity, not opposed to taking capital, but until then, we're not getting on that rocket ship, if we don't have the moon in sight, kind of thing.
I would also like to point out that when a business take some kind of funding from someone, the expectations of that product or service may change. So as you said that some venture capitalists are looking for high return. So they may demand you to alter your promotional tactics or go against what you do not believe in. So yeah, sometimes it can lead to changes in expectations. So it may have happened for the better.
100%. I mean, you give up control of your business, and that's really important to me and my team. We have a really good team, really good culture. We have a good life that we've created here. And again, if we see an opportunity, we're ready to pounce. But until then, we're not. I think there's definitely a trap of thinking that you need venture capital in order to create a business. A lot of people try to put that as their first step. Okay, I'm gonna form an LLC, and then I'm gonna go out and raise capital. Like you need to get a product. You need to understand the product, the market space before you can even, one, probably raise capital, and two, understand whether your business needs it or not, and whether that's going to be a net positive or net negative. And unfortunately, I think some people don't find that out until too late, right? They've overcapitalized a business that doesn't have that potential that the expectations would need, right? And then you've got bad energy between the founders and investors. The founder regrets selling. They've hired too much, and so they have too many capital obligations now because they had these big plans earlier when they raised capital. So it can be, it's a drug. It can be good for you, or it can kill you. So it's really up to the individuals to understand and make themselves.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brett. It was a real pleasure hearing your insights and experiences, and most importantly, learning from you. So do you have any final thoughts or comments?
No, I appreciate you having me on. You guys can find us at, mindstamp.io, or use Mindstamp on all socials. I think we'll have a little discount code for Squeeze Growth listeners, maybe 20% off for the first 3 months or so. We can link that down in the show notes, I imagine, or we can add it after this. I'll get you the actual code, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a great chat, and everybody out there, just, get started and keep going. You got it.
Thank you again for joining us, Brett. We wish you all the best with MindStamp and your future endeavors.